Hello and welcome to Inside Tennessee Football's practice facility. I'm Ryan Sylvia. This is Noah Taylor, and we are with VolReport.com on the Rivals Network. And as Tennessee turns the page from Kentucky to Mississippi State, we met with head coach Josh Heupel and a handful of players. So let's jump right into what we thought about what they had to say, starting with you and Josh Heupel.
Yeah, obviously, when he comes to talk to us on Monday, he's had a chance to look back on that film, maybe expand a little bit more on some things that he talked about in the aftermath of the game Saturday. But I thought one of the more interesting things he expanded on was about Peyton Lewis and what he was able to do in that one drive, come in and get the first touchdown for Tennessee and since September 21st in the first half. So a guy that, Tennessee really needed to lean on in that moment, kind of provided a spark for the offense, a guy that Josh Heupel talked about. I think it's pretty well documented. The highly touted recruit came in here but had to, was kind of hindered by injuries, didn't participate in spring, was limited in fall camp, and we were kind of wondering what his place would be in this offense. And a lot of it's been certainly Dylan Sampson, obviously, who's having a Heisman caliber campaign, no matter what people say nationally. But and then it's been a Deshaun Bishop in that second role, but he kind of took advantage, I think, of Deshaun Bishop coming out of that game. Still, I know we're uncertain of what his status is, but I think Peyton Lewis made an argument for a guy that could get more carries in that game. It was a good Kentucky defense, and Josh Heupel talked about, for being a young guy, he's been really mature in the way he's approached things, and I think you saw that in a moment Tennessee really needed him. And again, a guy that we could probably see a little bit more of here down the most critical stretch of the season.
Now tomorrow, the college football playoff rankings come out for the first time, and Josh Heupel was asked about, how you address that with your team. It's going to be publicized everywhere. It's no longer just the AP poll. It's what, if the playoffs started today, what the playoff picture would look like. So I thought what Heupel had to say was interesting, though. He said, "Do you guys remember what the first rankings were last year?"
Yeah.
Because I don't.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't matter. That was kind of his way to say, who cares what the first one looks like? It's what the last one looks like. And if you want to be in a good spot in the final one, then you have to play well down the stretch. And that is finishing up SEC play, your final SEC home game against Mississippi State this week. It's taking care of business against UTEP. It's going on the road against Georgia and Vandy, two top 25 teams right now, and taking care of business there, or at least being competitive in that Georgia game and keeping things close. I think, because if you're Tennessee and you go 10-2 and you take that loss on the road to Arkansas, which stings, but if you keep things close and play a tight game with Georgia, I don't think you'll be penalized enough to drop out of the picture. So if you can take care of business, do what you need to do, then it's the final one that matters. And then you talk to players too, and they all brush it off, which is probably the right mentality, but just an interesting perspective from Heupel to talk about. I mean, the first one, it's fun to talk about, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. It changes a lot. You think back to the first one in 2022, Tennessee's the number one team in the country in that one, and rightfully so at that point. But by the end of it, they lose to Georgia on the road, they lose to South Carolina on the road, Hendon Hooker gets hurt, and they're out of the picture from there. So it does change up. We'll flip to the players now, though. What do you think about what they have to say?
Yeah, you talked about, guys kind of brushing it off. Holden Stays was one of those we talked to today, but, a little more specifically for him, a guy that was able to talk a little bit more why he came here, and one of his goals coming from Notre Dame was to be a more complete tight end. Says he thinks he's met that goal. He thinks he's grown under, Alec Ablin's leadership there in that position group. And you saw that. I mean, I think Miles Kitselman's obviously been the headliner there. Mm-hmm. Tennessee's gone with a heavy dose. Him had a big touchdown the other night, a couple big catches as well. But Holden Stace had a good game. He had some good blocks that sprung some plays. Had a couple catches himself. But I think a guy that's coming along, and we thought coming into the year that'd be a strong group for Tennessee, and they've certainly proven that so far.
Yeah, especially in that last game, Miles Kitselman going for nearly 100 yards, catching that touchdown, a little improvisation in the end zone. So tight end group starting to come along a little bit, which is nice to see. On the defensive side of things, Jacoby Thomas, a guy that there were some questions about, what his role would exactly be, but he's come in. He's been a nice piece for Tennessee secondary as a reserve safety. But he talked about kind of his journey to Tennessee. He's always wanted to, not always, but since growing up in Tennessee, he's wanted to play for Tennessee, and he's kind of taking advantage of every moment because he knows it's a short tenure, but wants to make the most of it. But he did talk about how he was born out in Mississippi and grew up a Mississippi State fan at first, and then when he moved to Tennessee, he became a Tennessee fan, which shows kind of an interesting perspective from him, a little bit of a homecoming game in some ways for him, just the two teams that he liked as a kid. But he said once he got to Tennessee, he became a Tennessee fan, and then he didn't really care for Mississippi State after that. So he's been all orange for the majority of his life, but when he was really young, he was a Mississippi State guy. So we'll see. He's always a guy that comes with a lot of juice, a lot of energies, but maybe it'll be up an extra notch this Saturday when they do face Mississippi State. That'll be all from us here, though, today inside Tennessee Football's practice facility. We'll be back tomorrow with more coverage on Tennessee football as they prepare for this game against Mississippi State, but also men's basketball gets going tonight. Lady Balls in the Kim Caldwell era is officially underway tomorrow. We'll have coverage throughout all of basketball season starting today over at VolReport.com. Links to everything you need is in the description. Thank you for watching.